Agreement between China and the USA, trade dispute set aside. Or are there alternatives here? Amazing drone show and some news from the crypto world. Prices are rising again and the holidays are over. I'm back. Hey, welcome to Crypto Owl. Great news to start the week. Finally, the October, or maybe it's not such an October after all. Is it over then or what? It's coming to an end. And all of this is also leading to the markets relaxing a bit again. But not just because October, which wasn't really an October, is coming to an end, but also because supposedly the trade dispute between China and the USA has been set aside. But now the question is, has it really been set aside, just postponed, or is the USA preparing something here? All of this in the video. And let's dive right in now. First, let's start with the prices. Exciting, let's start here with the stock market opening. We'll see it live here in the video in just a moment. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart. Let's switch to the 4-hour view. We can see in the last few hours, so since Saturday, ever since the rumors started circulating that the trade dispute is over, and that the 100%, even more than 100% tariffs are off the table, we can clearly see here that we've experienced a price increase. This is about, here the news comes in, this is about if we take the peak 4.3% for Bitcoin. Others have risen a bit higher, or have reached another peak here. But overall, you can go through the charts here and say that since Saturday, things have been moving up a bit again. At least if you look at most of the charts here. And of course, this is a positive development to observe. And this is very likely due to the fact that the external impact of this trade dispute is now over. Buy Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies at Maxi. At Maxi, you can trade over 1,800 cryptocurrencies, go long and short, or buy spot. There are 0% fees and even a $10,000 bonus when you sign up. With my link, you'll also get an extra 10% cashback on all fees at Maxi. You even get a 10 USDT bonus when you sign up on top of the 10% cashback. I buy and hold very easily. For example, Bitcoin, which in the spot market via limit and market orders, or use futures trading, whether long or short. And you can even do this with up to 500 times leverage and brand new with AI analysis. This can be worthwhile to predict the right direction of the price. In addition, Maxi offers you many events related to the crypto space, whether it's Launchpad, Airdrop Plus, Kickstarter, and every day lots of trading bonuses with their futures M-Day. Every day you can get up to 80,000 USDT extra. And this relief in the market was achieved because supposedly the USA and China have reached an agreement. Specifically, the chief trade negotiator said that a consensus had been reached with the USA. At the moment, we don't see much of this officially yet. Trump is currently traveling. He landed in Japan last night, or rather this morning. And because of that, of course, we don't see much of what's going on right now, or we'll probably get answers from him here. At the moment, we're not getting any. But we can see that the markets are reacting very positively right now. As I said, the stock market opening, that's in 2 minutes. Let's quickly go through the stocks, just fly through them. Even the DAX gave a bit of a middle finger this morning. Then here we see Netflix. Okay, they're dealing with other problems right now. Apple is more on the positive side. Then Google is positive. Tesla should also be positive. Yeah, it's about rare earths. That affects them too. Of course, that also affects Microsoft. Coinbase should also be positive because Bitcoin is positive, or rather crypto in general. Meta. They're also affected to some extent. Nvidia is affected a lot, as we can see here. And then, of course, it's clear that in the pre-market trading of US stocks, positive results are being achieved. And of course, that leads to the SPX, or rather, the stock indices will very likely rise shortly. And of course, this is a positive development and could maybe, well, actually, Bitcoin has already priced all of this in, maybe give Bitcoin a little extra push, but nothing major. A big candle because Bitcoin already reacted earlier, since it's online 24/7. But now the big question is, what's going on? What actually happened that both stocks and cryptocurrencies are performing positively? We've seen that. I also quickly summarized it again this morning. The first stocks to go online at night are those on the Nikkei, or rather, the Japanese stock index. And after that comes the Chinese stock index. And the Chinese stock index is up 1.09%, and here in Japan, 3.18%. What was special in Japan, or rather with the Nikkei, was that the Nikkei broke through the 50,000 mark for the first time. And what's especially notable now, as the stocks are about to open, we'll take another look in a moment, is that the S&P 500 could reach the 7,000 mark for the first time in history. That's also quite remarkable. And here in pre-market trading, we can see the futures, which already reacted positively to all this news on Saturday. So we can see that the prices are reacting positively, which is very good. But has the USA really reached an agreement with China, or have other things simply happened? Or rather, the fact that Trump is looking for alternatives naturally puts pressure on China as well, since they of course want to sell their rare earths. They have a lot of it, they want to sell it, they want to trade it, they want to make profits with it. But first, they also need buyers. According to their own statements, they supposedly have the best and the cheapest stuff. At least that's what they say, because they have so much of it. Those who have a lot can also sell it relatively cheaply. But Trump realizes there are currently a lot of problems with China, so he's looking for alternatives. And that's exactly what happened. Namely, on the 24th October, Malaysia signed a minerals pact. Thailand signed a processing agreement on the 25th October. On the 26th October, so yesterday, a framework was announced. China is hesitating. And that's the latest news there has been. Namely, there is supposed to be a framework for a new trade deal with China. And China has hesitated at first, or so it is said. So far, it's 100% official. It's difficult to get any information out. But in all these agreements, there is 13 billion US dollars for the processing of rare earths in Australia. That's also part of it. Namely, mining rights in Cambodia. Japan's strategy from 2010, which reduced dependence on China by 30%, is now being used for an American AI infrastructure worth 350 billion US dollars. So that means Trump is traveling the world and making raw material deals for rare earths. And these rare earths are important for the American economy. That's why I say there are companies that are affected by this. Tesla, Microsoft, Nvidia, they rely on these rare earths. And that's exactly why we see that these stocks, compared to others I just showed, are rising better or will rise just as much. We're about to take another look. And that's just extremely interesting right now. Trade between the USA and China amounted to around 758 billion in 2018, US dollars. In 2024, it was then only, in quotation marks, 578 billion US dollars. So, as you can see for yourselves, these 180 billion dollars aren't just gone, they've simply been relocated to other countries that, in quotation marks, comply with this example. Namely, this trade has increased by 20%. With these other countries like now, for example, with Japan, with Malaysia, and all the other countries involved. And China's market share in rare earths is falling for the first time in 30 years. And that's something special. And Beijing recognizes this trap and is, of course, hesitant when it comes to trade agreements. Now, the question is, Beijing, or rather China, do you have enough to supply or support the world here? To deliver? And maybe also to find other trading partners? Or are you also dependent on the USA because they simply buy so much of it? So you can already see here, you have two parties that are very tough. We have a Xi, we have a Trump. Both are tough, both insist on their rights. Trump is looking for alternatives. Xi is slowly realizing, oh, I have to get rid of my stuff somehow. Xi currently has very, very good cards in his hand anyway. Namely, they simply have cheap raw materials. The natural gas that Germany bought from Russia is now being routed to China via pipelines. So that means our actually cheap natural gas is now going to China. That means you can produce your raw materials more cheaply and you can get them at a lower price. So that means actually all the good cards are in China's hand here. But if in the end the trading partners or the buyers for example, rare earths are missing, then it naturally becomes difficult. On the other hand, of course, you also promote perhaps other nations that previously didn't have access to rare earths. And China says, hey, look, I still have a bit lying around here. Do you want something from me? And so perhaps nations that previously didn't have much to do with computers, rockets, electric cars, or e-batteries, they can benefit from this. So it's all a game on a knife's edge. On the one hand, you harm China because you don't buy as much from them anymore. On the other hand, they look for other trading partners. And suddenly you have countries where people are also driving electric cars or that are even producing electric cars themselves. Just like in China, where a huge number of electric cars now come from, maybe you'll suddenly have that elsewhere too. India, for example, might say, hey, we're going to start making electric cars too. So these are all the kinds of issues we're dealing with. It's always a bit complicated. But of course, this makes the negotiating relationship a bit more difficult here. Or in other words, also for China. Then they might say, no, look, we'll make some concessions, you make some concessions, and in the end, we still do business. So they can still get rid of their stuff, so to speak. And of course, both nations have their pros and cons. Trump has just turned the world's largest consumer market from a trading partner into a weapon. And that's exactly what this is all about. Every country now faces a choice: access to the American markets or access to the Chinese supply chains. Because if this whole thing escalates, Trump will eventually say, look, it's either mine or his, not both. And that's exactly what it's about. And there have already been the first measures taken, namely, the $20 billion soybean stop that happened, the first was in 2018, was not a retaliatory measure, it was a demonstration. When China says, we won't deliver anymore, they can cause a lot of suffering. It says here, China can cause suffering. America can bring about eradication. Let's think about military power. So, the whole topic is extremely difficult, and of course the market reacts to it. So, many people say, yeah, now Trump has said something again and Xi isn't there. With Geiger, then they're at odds again and the market, it's not playing along. But the whole thing is much bigger. There are so many parties involved by now. That's why it's pretty difficult to interpret this market correctly. And depending on what statements are made, this market will react extremely. So even though it's crypto and actually decoupled from that, but by now, because of Bitcoin and the company ETFs, the market is now also being driven extremely by all these things. In the past, yes, it reacted to that, but now, in my opinion, because of the ETFs, it's even more extreme. And all of this means that the market just reacts to everything that's happening right now. Difficult, this whole market, right? Write in the comments what you think about it, what you have to say about it. It really is a difficult topic. Shall we stick to pure crypto topics for now? And there are some interesting topics there. For example, BNB CZ has been pardoned by Donald Trump, but he's also got a lot going on, as they say. Here's what's cooking. Kyrgyzstan is probably setting up a Binance Reserve. A national stablecoin has been launched on the BNB chain. The CBDC is ready for rollout. Yes, both. The CBDC will be used for government payments and so on. Used for that purpose. The establishment of the National Cryptocurrency Reserve with BNB, which also includes BNB, it's important to mention that they'll probably also include Bitcoin and Ethereum. Then there are other points about what's happening here. Specifically, CZ is building something here in Kyrgyzstan, where they want to set up a crypto reserve in which BNB will also play a role. So we can see that a lot is happening around the world right now because more and more countries are dealing with these topics. And of course, these countries need to manage their cryptocurrencies somehow. And if you want to do that securely, take a look at Tangim. Currently, there's still a 25% discount on the ring, which is really very affordable. And it also includes free shipping. With these two codes, or simply use the link in the video description. Keep an eye on Tangem because there's another great promotion coming up, which is actually supposed to start today. But so far, they're still running their weird 8% promotion. Remember, with my code CryptoYule, you get 10%. There's actually a big discount here. I'm almost afraid to say it because as long as it's not online, I don't even know if it's really going to happen. But just keep an eye on the whole thing. If you buy one of these two packages, there should be a discount on a second package. I'm really curious to see when the whole thing will go live. It's a huge discount. Feel free to check it out using the link in the video description. Tangem, as I said, there's still 25% off the ring as well. It's really very affordable. Just a little note, because I know you don't like the ad breaks, but that's totally fine. So we'll keep it really short. Then in Lugano, we had the kickoff of the Lugano the Bitcoin conference. And there was a drone show, and it was something special. And of course, I don't want to keep that from you. Unfortunately, without sound, I can't play that. But let's take a look at the drone show, and that's how it all started. Take a look. So the world is printing way too much money. And then Bitcoin came into play. And they still don't know what's going to happen. Oh, Bitcoin. Very interesting. And of course, there were those ups and downs with Bitcoin. Yes, we can see it again here, the roller coaster. And then at some point, when things go down, we want to work at McDonald's. Bitcoin devours the major currencies. The orange pill? Or do you want to keep going on with your life? Stay like this? Bitcoin with the rainbow flag. It really was a beautiful drone show. It just had to be that way. It was truly amazing. I have to say, that was something special, something unique. And of course, I don't want to keep that from you. Right now, we can see that the Bitcoin price is rising, but that's also because this is extremely interesting, namely Ash. Crypto looked this up again. A whale bought Bitcoin today, well actually it was yesterday, worth $309 million, which is equivalent to 2,772 Bitcoin. And you can really see that these pullbacks, or these dips as they're called, are currently being bought up. And that's very, very positive because more people are buying as well. And who could have guessed, although he hasn't bought much lately, that's why it's in the video. Because it's been a while since the last time Michael Saylor has struck again, or rather his company Strategy. They have announced here that they've bought again. Specifically, they bought 390 Bitcoin worth or with an approximate equivalent value of $43.4 million at an approximate or average purchase price of $111,053. It's really great and interesting to watch what's happening right now. And as I told you, we're including the stock market opening. And then, of course, we see that with such a stock market opening, if it starts high, it can also, of course, come back down relatively quickly. There are pullbacks or profit taking. That's completely normal, of course. And we can see that here now. And let's take a look at that by looking at the SPX, that is the S&P 500. And then let's see. It started right at the top here because, of course, all the stocks opened even higher. We can see that here, as I just showed you in the pre-market, that they all opened higher. We can see that here. Apple is, of course, also affected by this, as are rare earths, naturally. And then, of course, we see that the SPX, or the S&P 500, also started off positive. Bitcoin, on the other hand, started off a bit negative in the last few minutes because, as I said, the stocks opened high. Bitcoin has already gone up. Then there was a brief round of profit taking. And with such a stock market opening, the market is relatively volatile. We can see that here on the 3-minute chart, guys. 3-minute chart. So this is really up to the minute. Let's switch to the 4-hour chart. Now, yeah, it's zoomed in a lot, but yeah, it's a bit red, but it went up nicely before that. So on the 3-minute chart, which we've just looked at here, this is what it looks like. Brief profit taking, but then actually the stocks are positive and the counterpart. Bitcoin at around $115,000 right now is a nice milestone. And we hope that this Bitcoin chart will stay up to date as well. Just write in the comments what you think about all these topics, but I think the topic, trade agreements or alternatives, ways to access rare earths are very, very important for America and also very important for the market. But these two major nuclear powers, trading powers, who are playing against each other here and slowly breaking down this trade between them, of course, that makes the world look around a bit right now, wondering how to deal with it. And of course, the world also has to consider with whom it wants to trade in the future. On one side, you have NATO, which also, besides being a defense alliance, it also somehow includes a trade alliance. On the other side, you have the BRICS countries. So the whole topic is going to remain very, very exciting. And Bitcoin and the crypto markets will also react extremely to political developments because they are always online, or rather, always tradable, 24/7 at any time of day or night. Not like stocks that only react later, like the US market is only now reacting to this weekend, to everything I told you in this video. In this sense, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.